Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another show. Thank you for being here today. Today's episode is a really interesting topic. It just kind of hit me one day because it's something that I realized in my own life. And it's a topic that might make you really start to think how weirdly certain things are connected. So I want to get into it and I want to ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how a weekend of deep cleaning your house or your apartment can leave you feeling more emotionally balanced, but you couldn't explain why? Or does feng shuiing your living room give you this revived feeling of possibility and energy? I know that I experience this quite a lot. There is research that actually shows that organizing your physical space creates the same neuropeptides that are responsible in your body as resolving a relationship conflict. It's really interesting. And today we're going to look at the science behind why decluttering your bedroom and other unusual spaces, whatever space might feel cluttered to you, might be the key to unlocking deeper connections that you really want to have. And one more thing I want to mention is I know I've been sharing a lot of science and research here on the show, but I feel it's important as educated individuals in our later dating years, like 40 plus, to move past that 20 and 30 something mindset in dating. We are more mature, and those ways of our younger years are way behind us. We've tried it all, and it has not worked. So, I'm here to help you educate yourself on how your mind is working in a scientific way so that you can make more educated decisions on dating. Plus, you get to learn a little bit about yourself as a human and why you operate the way you do. So, I want to help you make these unconscious processes conscious. Welcome to Intentionally Single, Seeking But Not Settling. I'm Lauren Jean, your host, integrative wellness coach, and hypnotist. Each week, we explore mindset shifts and mind-body strategies to help you live life intentionally single and content while remaining open to possibilities. Unlike typical dating advice, we focus on personal fulfillment to attract genuine love. Join us to transform unconscious patterns and embrace your intentionally single lifestyle. Stop feeling deflated by the dating world and start prioritizing the most important relationship, the one with yourself. Before we dig into today's episode, I want to say welcome to Intentionally Single, Seeking Not Settling. I want to offer you a brief hypno-clearing moment so that you can clear your mind of any thoughts that might be distracting you or anything that you may have been doing or dealing with before you hit play on your podcast app. You can follow along just by listening and doing whatever it is that you're doing while listening, or you can find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and just allow your inner voice to guide you as you listen to my words. So let's get into that. Welcome to this moment of mental clarity. Let's just take a few minutes to help you become fully present and receptive to the upcoming discussion. Take a comfortable breath in, and if it feels right, allow your eyes to close. If you prefer to keep them open, that's perfectly fine too. Just let your gaze soften and rest easily somewhere in front of you if you've chosen to keep your eyes open. Notice your body making contact with whatever is supporting you right now. Perhaps you're sitting or lying down, just becoming aware of those points of contact and letting them help you feel grounded in this moment. And as you continue breathing comfortably, you might begin to notice any thoughts from your day, any preoccupations or to-do lists, and imagine them like leaves floating on a stream. You don't need to push them away or hold on to them. Just observe them floating past, knowing you can return to them later if needed. With each breath, allow yourself to become more present, more focused on this moment, letting your mind clear like a sky after rain. You might notice sounds around you, and that's perfectly fine. Just let them be part of your experience without needing to focus on them. Your attention can remain centered right here. In these next moments, give yourself permission to be fully here, fully present, letting everything else gently fade into the background. Like adjusting the focus on a camera, bring your attention to this space, this moment. And now feeling clear, present, and receptive, allow yourself to bring your focus to our conversation ahead, knowing you can maintain this sense of clarity throughout our time together. Welcome to the show. Let's begin. So I hope you enjoyed your hypno moments. I really enjoy doing those, and I look forward to infusing them into the episodes as we continue. So I want you to think about something. When was the last time you walked into your bedroom and felt either completely at peace or totally overwhelmed? What was different about your space in those moments? Hold on to that thought as we explore the science behind these reactions, because there is a lot of it. I want to share not a story, but a realization that I had while writing this episode. It's something that I can look back on and notice the transition I made over the lifetime of my daughter, who's now almost 17. I remember when she was little and she and I had moved back to my parents' house after my divorce. She still was very little and had to go back and forth to both houses. So she was attached to my hip and she refused to sleep in her own room. So for a long time, we shared a room. This room gave me really bad anxiety. It was so full of stuff that I could never get it clean or organized. And something that the brain loves is organization. I could never get this room clean. Every time I tried to clean it up, I would end up stopping because I was so overwhelmed. I would get like a little section cleaned and then I would just be done. Even though I remember doing this, I would have little areas of the room all over the place. I was like jumping from area to area, so nothing was ever completely done. I would end up with piles of stuff and I would just then throw them into a container and under the bed. So nothing ever really got completely cleaned. She was also in a toy stage, so she had a lot of toys everywhere. You know, those tiny little toys that you could step on and could send you through the roof because it hurt so bad from stepping on it. These toys were everywhere. There was also crafting supplies everywhere. I had a lot of undealt emotions at that time. So I was trying to satisfy those feelings by buying unnecessary things, which is why I had so many things for her. I also still had anger, frustration, and shame buried from my divorce. So that equaled more things that I thought would make me and her happy. But nothing did in the end. After the initial excitement of buying whatever it was, I was back to being overwhelmed and unhappy with more stuff that cluttered up my space. It was a never ending battle. I didn't think that room would ever get clean. My bedroom was a place that would give me horrible anxiety and this unease, as well as tension in my neck and my shoulders, and sometimes it even end up as a headache. And it wasn't just the bedroom, it was the closet and it was my car and any other area that I needed and wanted to feel restful in. So the feeling of overwhelm and the physical response I got from my body when walking into my messy room or just being there, there's actually some really interesting, valid research behind that response that I had. And I'm going to share that with you. There was a study in the neuroscience news that I recently looked at dual income couples that showed something really, really interesting. It was women living in cluttered spaces showed consistently elevated levels of cortisol, which is our stress hormone, throughout the entire day. And what's I found really interesting about that is their male partners' cortisol levels stayed pretty much the same regardless of the mess. And this isn't about being more stressed or being too particular. It's about how our bodies process our environment different. I also found it really interesting that the men did not get stressed out. And this is where I love doing the research for these shows because I always learn something new to build on that I already know. But I didn't know that men would be less affected by cluttered space than women. I mean, it's kind of makes sense in my head because women, in my personal experience and my own experience, can be more needing to have order, and men can be more relaxed when it comes to the home spaces. I don't know if that's just my view, but I'm just sharing it here with you. So, when the space around you is cluttered, your brain enters a space that is similar to a mental fight. We know what that feels like. Just imagine trying to have an intimate conversation while 1,000 people are shouting for your attention, or even better yet, your two younger kids or five or however many kids you have are yelling your name at the same time. Mom, 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 mom. Just imagine that. That's basically what's happening in your brain when you're in this cluttered space. It's that same exact feeling. Every single item in your visual field, so everything you see with your eyes, is competing for your attention, forcing your brain to decide what to focus on and what to ignore constantly. I've learned in my lifestyle medicine class that our brains process environmental chaos through the same pathways as our emotional chaos. And this happens through three systems in your body. And when you can understand how they work, it explains so much about why your messy bedroom might be affecting your love life more than you think. So, first, let's talk a little bit about the neural processing system. Your brain actually prefers order over chaos. It is wired that way for survival. And in cluttered environments, your brain is forced to make up 1,000 extra decisions per minute. That is not just exhausting, but it's using up the exact same mental resources you need for emotional intimacy and connection. It's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool to understand. And I'm sure when you put yourself in that position, you can make sense of it. You can connect that on your own. And I really do want you to. The HeartMath Institute made an amazing discovery about your heart's electromagnetic field, which I shared in the last episode too, which is your heart generates an energy field that extends 6 to 8 feet beyond your body. This field doesn't just affect you, it affects and influences everyone who comes into your space. So, when you're in a cluttered environment, this field becomes frantic and it reduces your immune function and changes how you interact with potential partners or just anyone around you. I want you to notice this energy field with your partner. Like, play with this. Your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or person that you're on a date with. Try this out on a first date. Notice their energy when you are with them. Notice how you can affect them with your words and your gestures, your reactions, even silence, anything. It can be really cool to play with. And the more you are aware of this field, the more you can influence this person, not in a malicious way, but just in a way that can help you with your own self awareness, your own self development. So, the research of Dr. Candace Pert shows you that your emotions aren't just in your head. They're actual molecules called neuropeptides that flow through your entire body. Also spoke about in the last episode. So just remember when you're listening to these shows, I kind of connect each episode with one another. So it's really teaching you something and you're hearing similar things throughout different episodes because your mind learns by repetition. So I really want to be able to bring these concepts together so that you can really grasp them and understand them and see them in different contexts. So these chemical messengers called neuropeptides, they travel through your blood, through your lymph, and through your cerebrospinal fluid, creating what I spoke about in the last episode again, a body-mind network. When you're in a cluttered space, these neuropeptides create the exact same stress response as if you're having a fight in a relationship or a disagreement or something along the lines of that, where you're having some sort of friction or resistance. Think about trying to have a deep, meaningful conversation in a noisy restaurant, like I mentioned earlier. Your brain has to work overtime just to filter out all of the background noise, which leaves less energy for an actual connection with the person you're trying to connect with. This is exactly what's happening in your nervous system when you're in a cluttered space. You have less energy overall, except it's happening all of the time, even when you're not consciously aware of it. Your nervous system is actually a crazy smart, like, data reduction system. It's there to help you reduce data and only bring to you what's really important. So when your physical space is cluttered, it creates something called high cognitive load, which tires out your brain's ability to filter and process this information. This is the same mental power you need for emotional processes and active listening and intimate connections. So when your space is constantly overwhelming that system, it takes away your capacity for deeper relationships. Just as you wouldn't eat food that is expired and rotten in your fridge, your nervous system naturally will resist chaotic environments. It does not like it. And the difference is that while we're immediately recognizing and rejecting spoiled food, we often override our system's resistance to clutter. Like, we just want to keep pushing it away. This override doesn't just affect your stress levels, but it also changes the entire biological state of your body, including your hormone production, your immune function, and even the ability to discern healthy relationships. And what's really interesting is that not all disorder is a problem for your relationship capacity, the ability for you to create a relationship. Scientists have also discovered that there's an interesting contradiction when it comes to this. So be aware of this. So while there is constant chaos and it reduces your cognitive function, the way your brain works, some level of disorder can actually increase creativity and it can bring in new ideas. This is really interesting. And I like the different perspectives because I like to then again put myself into that situation and share with you so that you can see how there are many different perspectives to look at in each topic that I bring you. So, like now, when I had mentioned before a messy room for me, I get inspired whenever I have a messy room or whenever I'm feeling stale. I get inspired to shift and move everything. I've been doing this for as long as I possibly can remember. I do this whenever, like I said, I feel cluttered or stale energy, like I'm just feeling kind of blah. When my bedroom is a place where I want to feel relaxed and inspired, I like to shake things up and make it feel different. And this is with the exact same stuff I have in the room. This, like, my furniture doesn't change, nothing changes. What changes is how I move it around. So, the key difference here lies in whether the chaos is a conscious choice or it's a default state that you just simply tolerate. Think about an artist, right? Or someone who's a writer, someone who spends a lot of time in their space as a profession. Their space from an onlooker's perspective might seem like a disaster. Like, how could they possibly be comfortable there or accomplish anything because it's so messy? But it usually makes sense and it works for that person. This is the same principle applied to your relationship with your space. When you're constantly choosing how to organize or not organize your space, your environment, you're engaging different neural pathways that when you're simply overwhelmed by clutter. Do you remember when I talked about the neuropeptides earlier? I'm sure you do. So these are the molecules of emotion. Your cells store memories of your environmental patterns. When you keep a chaotic physical space, you're programming your cellular memory, with these patterns of all this craziness and disorder. These patterns then will influence everything from your stress response to how you structure your relationships, your dating. This programming happens whether you're consciously aware of it or not. Your cells cannot tell between chaos that you choose and overwhelming clutter. They just respond to the environment they're in. So they just notice where they are and they respond to that. This is why creating order in your physical space can have these really profound effects on your relationship patterns because you're actually reprogramming your cellular memory based on how your physical space is. I find this stuff so incredibly interesting. I hope you do too. This is what I find really the most intriguing about all of this science that I was able to dig up is your response to clutter it's not a character flaw or a sign of being too sensitive. It's just your body giving you this valuable information about yourself and your ability for connection with another. Just like we talked about last week with the emotional triggers in your daily life, your response to your environment, your messy bedroom, is actually a message about where you're ready to grow. So, in last week's episode, I shared about the daily triggers that you have. This can be one of them that you can really take and be like, okay, what can I get from this? What is this teaching me? And how can I grow? What can I do to help myself grow in this situation? Why does this trigger me so much? You can look at it from that perspective as well. But in this episode, I shared with you the science behind that phenomenon. So what I really want you to get that. Like there is this connection between your cluttered space and your potential relationships. So I'm just going to kind of run through everything here again really quickly for you to grasp and take. And I want you to take from this episode what really spoke to you. So, the connection between your messy bedroom and your love life, it's not just about having a clean space or impressing potential partners. It's about how your environment is programming your nervous system's ability to connect and to be able to date someone. So think about when your space is overwhelming your system with this 1,000 little decisions, releasing stress hormones and creating that really crazy frantic heart field that we talked about. How can you possibly show up fully present for a deep connection if you're constantly feeling frantic or anxious? Because remember, other people read that on you. They can feel it. So it's technically pushing someone away unconsciously. So, whether you're going on first dates or you're trying to build a meaningful relationship with someone, your cluttered environment is creating that same chemical chaos in your body as any type of relationship conflict. Do you remember how I shared about years ago that anxiety inducing bedroom with my daughter earlier? I had no idea that my cluttered space was actually reflecting and affecting my emotional state. It was describing who I was as a person at that stage. I had not dealt with any of my emotions at that point, and my environment was showing that. I've been able to see that when my head is more clear now, my space is more clear and I don't need as much stuff, as many things, I should say. There's not as much stuff. I have really downsized so much because I'm not needing that stuff as much anymore. So my environment was a mirror of my inner state, and it also kept me in stuck patterns that was not serving me. But the beautiful thing about understanding all of this is once you realize your space isn't just about being clean, but it's about creating the neurological and biological conditions for connection with another person. It becomes less about your shoulds and more about the choices that you have. You get to decide what kind of environment supports your relationship goals, whether that's consciously, creatively, or like a calm order. And this link between your messy bedroom and your love life isn't about judgment or perfection. It's about understanding how deeply connected your physical and emotional spaces really are. And just like we talked about with daily triggers, like I said, when you start paying attention to those connections, you open up this whole new possibility for growth and for this authentic connection that all of us, really, as humans, desire and are built to have. So, that is the end of this episode. I really put a lot of thought and science into this, so I hope you can appreciate it. I hope you come away with some ahas for yourself. And I just want to thank you for joining me today for another episode of Intentionally Single, Seeking Not Settling. The science that we've looked at today shows how deeply our environment affects our relationship capacity. If this episode really resonated with you and you're curious about understanding your own space relationship patterns more deeply, please reach out to me on Instagram at the Girl with the Vine Tattoo or at intentionallysinglepodcast@gmail.com so we can explore this connection together, because maybe you need a little bit more help to understand and really see how you can move past this. If this episode sparked some realizations about your own space and your own relationships, I would absolutely love to hear it. Share your insights with the community. Sometimes the biggest aha moments come from understanding the science behind what we've always felt intuitively. So I want to thank you for being here today. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to talk about next episode, so I'm not going to share anything right now. But all I want to leave you with right now is please keep your heart open to possibilities. And I will see you next week.